All right, let's see if we're back on air again. Sorry about that, folks. We had a system failure. You know that happens every so often. We had a system failure, but it seems like we are back. So let's go ahead and get back into business. Let's get back into business. I think we're back. Okay, folks, as I rejiggle a few things here to make sure that we're back in business, bear with me as I rejiggle all our different online properties because what we had was was an immediate crash, but it seems like we are back and I am about to get all the other jiggers and stuff running up to speed. Bear with me. We're going to be with you this very minute. Let's go to the chat. All right. Every now and then you get a start like that, folks. Every now and then you get a little crash that occurs when you're trying to control all these things at one time, which is what just happened to us. We're live again. I'm coming back. Bear with me. I'm about to rekindle the entire program as we go live again. We have to come up live on several other channels. That's the issue right now, folks. That's the issue right now. We're in the process of going live on all the different platforms. Anyway, folks, how's everybody doing today? Welcome aboard Politics Done Right. Welcome aboard Politics Done Right. Glad to have you here. Let's start saluting everybody in the house. Welcome aboard. Patrick Magner was the first one in the house today. He says, meow. Welcome, Patrick. We also have in the house, second in AVQ, Michael Rudnin is in the house as well. We also have Yvette Avery Herod coming in, numero tres, from Atlanta, Georgia. Michael is from Brooklyn, New York. Magner is from Houston, Texas. We got Lee the Bearcat from Austin, Texas. Jay Ray is roaring in from Houston, Texas, our good friend Ray. We also have in the house, para ver, Melanie Keelan from Barcelona, Spain. Welcome aboard. In our Substack, Substack is full. Make It Plain, how you doing? Make It Plain, my good buddy, the Reverend at Make It Plain. How you doing, sir? Great to have you here. We also have Kimberly, Adriana Park, Betsy, Mavis Edmondson, Lane Foley, Janice Archibald, and everybody else who has joined the fold. Anyway, folks, you can give me a call anytime, 713. Oops, that's the wrong number. That's the KPFT number. Here is the right number, 281-823-7747. You can give me a call anytime you want. We have Barbara Wiltz in the house from the Upper Peninsula in Michigan. I know you love it out there, being surrounded by the lake. Beautiful out there. Great to see you guys there. All right, let me check one other domain to make sure that we have the right Substack and everything going. It seems like we do. Bruce Pollard is in the house from Atascocita, Kingwood. So we are all over the world, folks. Carl Cox is in the house from Riverdale, Georgia. How you doing, Carl Cox? Eric Hayes is in the house from Kingwood, Atascocita. And let's see what else we have here. Okay, let's get busy. By the way, folks, if you are on Substack, I do read the messages that you put out there in Substack, so please feel free to do it. Now, earlier today, I left a message on Substack that I want to talk a little bit about. And this is rather important. Before we get into the subject at hand, I want to talk a little bit about the different independent platforms that we have out there, how journalists can get the information out. And I want to give some caveats to everybody that's listening. I'm going to wait a bit more till I get more of our Substack users on before I get into that narrative. So what I'm going to do is Substack people, hey, folks on Substack, AVQ is trying to get you guys on Twitch because he wants you to comment, your comment to show up to everybody. I'm talking to the people at our network here to try to be able to see if they can make a deal with Substack to bring those messages into the fold as well. Don't know how successful I'm going to be there, but I'm sure going to try to do that because we get a lot of Substack is very, very active now. but I want to talk to the Substack people importantly. But beforehand, let me do this. Um, there is a woman, a young lady that I found on TikTok this morning, and she really, really touched me. And the reason she touched me was the message that she had to our MAGA brothers and sisters. And welcome aboard, M. Empri. Welcome aboard, M. Esprit. I'm a newbie, just donated today. My name is Michael. Thank you so kindly, Michael. Love you for supporting what we're doing. E2247 is in the house. I want you to listen to this young lady, because when I heard her voice and I saw the feelings with which she said what she had to say, I said, I've got to put this out there. And I want people to go ahead and go directly to listen to some of the stuff that she has to say. So here we go. I got to get it on the screen. And then I want you to listen to this.
Your life doesn't suck because your barista had blue hair. They still showed up, still remembered your order, still smiled, even if it was tired, even if you didn't. Your life doesn't suck because your neighbor doesn't speak English. They pay taxes, raise their kids, drive to work before the sun rises. You don't need to understand their words to see that they're doing exactly what you're doing, just trying to survive. Your life doesn't suck because a trans man used the men's bathroom. He went in, he came out, the world kept spinning, it just wasn't around you. The problem was never children learning what a pronoun was. It was never about grammar. It was never about protecting kids. Your life probably does suck, but not for the reasons you post about. Not because your favorite store sold a rainbow shirt or because you had to press 1 for English. Not because someone said Latinx or they, them in a tweet that you didn't have to read. Your life might suck because you're drowning in debt, because your rent just went up again and the only thing that trickled down was exhaustion. That pain is real. But it's not the fault of the cashier with pink nails or the kids with a pride patch on their backpacks. Someone's life today sucks because they lost their daughter when a man with a gun walked into a school and made it a graveyard. And the politicians that you voted for sent thoughts and prayers and money to the NRA. Someone's life today sucks because ICE knocked on their door before breakfast was even made and now their father is gone, disappeared into a system designed to forget him. Someone's life today sucks because they came out to their family and were met with silence or fists or Bible verses thrown like bricks. And if you ask me if I care that your life sucks, I don't. I will look you in the eye and say, I don't. I don't care that your life sucks. Not if your definition of pain is seeing someone different than you exist without apologizing. Not if your idea of oppression is having to share space with people you don't understand and never tried to. I don't care that everything going wrong is exactly what you voted for, that the man you chose did what he said he was going to do, and now it's affecting you. I care about the millions who voted against it, who stood in long lines of broken systems with shaking hands and steady hearts trying to hold back the tide. I care about the people you hated so much you were willing to vote against their right to breathe, to marry, to walk into a store without fear, to learn history that includes them. And somehow you want sympathy? Try empathy first. Try waking up in a world where your very existence is debated by strangers in suits. Your life doesn't suck because someone else found a little joy. It doesn't suck because someone else got rights you already had. It sucks because the people in power told you who to blame and you believed them. You were sold a scapegoat and called it salvation. But you can still unlearn it. You can still sit down, shut up for a second and listen, because not every cry is about you. Not every protest is a threat. Sometimes it's just people fighting for the right to live without asking for your permission. So maybe your life does suck, but it's not because of pronouns, or food stamps, or hair dye, or immigrants, or love. It sucks because you keep mistaking comfort for freedom and cruelty for strength. And that's on you. Your life...
I mean, that young lady who said this, I couldn't but help give her kudos. And I really wanted to get this out there because I tell you something. She looks like she's pretty young. I don't know what her age is, but to encapsulate everything in a 3-minute prose as she just did, I tell you, I wanted to look at her and just tell her, lady, sister, daughter, you nailed it. And because you nailed it, kudos to you. So go visit her channel, folks, on TikTok. because I'm pretty sure I didn't get a chance to go through a whole lot of her stuff. But that is what I call, that's the message that we need to get out there. Now, the next subject here that I want to talk about is fascism finally hits the judges. I don't know if you guys saw the news, but it says fascism get turned up as Trump FBI arrests Wisconsin county judge. It's clear that actions like Judge Dugan's are what is required for democracy to survive the Trump regime, said one state lawmaker. Federal agents arrested a sit-in Wisconsin judge on Friday, accusing her of helping an undocumented immigrant evade arrest after he appeared in her courtroom last week, FBI Director Kash Patel said on social media. When I see a Kash Patel, somebody that is a son of immigrants and etc., it bugs me how blind and uninformed these people are. But anyway, continuing, it says, in a since deleted post, Patel said that FBI arrests 65-year-old Milwaukee County Circuit Judge Hannah Dugans on charges of obstruction. Think about it. Why did he delete the message? Why? What is the FBI doing the executive doing in arresting a local judge like that? We believe Judge Dugan intentionally misdirected federal agents away from the subject to be arrested in her courthouse, allowing the subject, an illegal alien, to evade arrest, Patel wrote. Thankfully, our agents chased down the perp on foot and he's been in custody since, but the judge's obstruction created increased danger to the public. BS. It is unclear why Patel deleted the post. U.S. Marshal Service spokesperson Brad McCarran, multiple Milwaukee County judges confirmed Dugan arrest, according to the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. McCarran said Dugan is facing 2 federal felonies, obstruction and concealing an individual. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi discussed the arrest during a Friday morning Fox News appearance in which she opined that judges like Dugan are deranged and believe they are beyond and above the law. The Journal-Sentinel reported that Dugan appeared before U.S. Magistrate Judge Stephen C. Dries during a brief hearing in packed courtroom at the federal courthouse. That is what fascism looks like. The fact that you go ahead and arrest a judge under the pretext that they're aiding and abetting an illegal alien is ridiculous. Wisconsin State Rep Ryan Clancy, Democrat of District 19, said in a statement Wednesday that several witnesses reported that Immigration and Customs Enforcement did not present a warrant before entering the courtroom, and it is not clear whether ICE ever processed or presented a judicial warrant, generally required for agents to access non-public spaces like Judge Dugan's chambers. Clancy continued, I commend Judge Hannah Dugan's defense of due process by preventing ICE from shamefully using her courtroom as an ad hoc holding area for deportations. We cannot have a functional legal system if people are justifiably afraid to show up for legal proceedings, especially when ICE agents have already repeatedly grabbed people off the street in retaliation for speech and free association without even the proper warrants. You know, I want you guys to think about Pinochet, right? Think about what things were like with Augusto Pinochet in Chile, when a lot of people disappeared on streets. You know what they were doing? They were taking them into helicopters, taking them over the Pacific Ocean and just dropping them, disappearing people. No recourse. This is not hyperbole to say that the next step in the Trump administration, given if they are allowed to disappear people, think about this. If they are allowed to disappear people without cause, or without giving them their day in court, they can disappear anybody and you never hear about it again. This is worse than fascism. This is worse than Pinochet. And let me tell you why it's worse. because they have normalized it. The fact that you have regular folks looking at this and not going into the streets and not going and say, we don't do this in America. We don't do this. The fact that people are doing that is a sad, sad, sad case. Continuing, while the facts in this case are still unfolding, it's clear that actions like Judge Dugan's are what is required for democracy to survive the Trump regime. She used her position of power and privilege to protect someone from an agency that has repeatedly, flagrantly abused its own power. If enough of us act similarly and strategically, we can stand with our neighbors and build a better world together. Prominent Milwaukee defense attorney and former federal prosecutor Franklin Gimbel called Dugan's arrest very, very outrageous, as it is. First and foremost, I know as a former federal prosecutor and as a defense lawyer for decades that a person who is a judge, who has a residence, who has no problem being found, should not be arrested. So why did they arrest this woman? They want to put the fear. They want to put the fear of every judge so that when people come for recourse to their dockets, that they simply abide by what ICE tells them to do. Right? No recourse. That is their expectation, to put the fear in every single judge, not only federal judges, but state judges, but county judges, but district judges. That's what they want to do. They want just like Columbia University caved, just like many law firms are caving to these animals that call themselves politicians that are currently governing our country right now. That's what they want to do, institute the fear. What all of us as Americans have to do is be there by the side of the judges, by the side of the people who are doing right. We need to make sure that this judge is protected. We need to make sure that Judge Dugan, everybody remember her name, Judge Dugan. We have to stand up for her, and we have to ensure that nothing happens to this woman. Julius Kim, another former prosecutor, defense attorney, said on the social media site that practicing in Milwaukee, I know Judge Hannah Dugan well. She's a good judge. And this entire situation demonstrates how the Trump administration's policies are heading for a direct collision course with the judiciary. And that's what he wants. And that's what we must not give him. That's what he wants. The evil president, that's what he wants. That's what he wants. That said, given the FBI director's tweet since deleted, they are going to try to politicize this situation to the max, Kim added. That sounds an awful lot like weaponizing the Department of Justice. Well, we knew it was weaponized. The National Women's Law Center was among the groups that condemned Dugan's arrest. This arrest is an escalation in the Trump administration's ongoing effort to dismantle the rule of law and consolidate power. These aggressive attacks on judges are dangerous. Exactly. Because if the judiciary fears the executive, then they won't rule against the executive when they must rule against the executive. For those of you who don't remember what you learned in high school, well, when they used to give civics, that is, these are three independent branches of government, co-equal agents, well, co-equal departments, and should remain that way. So people, we've got to be careful, man. And we've got to go out there. Luckily, all over the country, people are rebelling and people are starting to act out. If anybody wants to add some more to this, you can give me a call before I get to the other subject. 281-823-7747. Again, that number is 281-823-7747. I have a special message for Substack and the new reporters that are leaving mainstream media to come to Substack. I have something very important to talk about there that, I've been trying to find some other Substack journalists like myself who are doing this stuff out of the passion for doing right, to point out a few things, not to the stars that are coming on to Substack now, not to Substack proper itself, but I want to talk to the audience, the Substack audience, and those who really should join Substack. It's so very important. Egberto, what you're saying right now is the best work you've done in a couple months. Thanks. E2247. Am I supposed to take that as a positive? I hope, and I do. All right. But yeah, thank you very much for that, E2247. Patrick Magner says, pizza sent to judges' homes in names of judges' murdered son. I remember that one perfectly. I remember that. Lee the Bearcat from Austin says, why have the district judges doing what they are doing? They're doing their work. They are doing their work. But anyhow, let me, again, the number is 281-823-7747. You can give me a call before I move on. Welcome aboard, Deb Wilson, Carla Bidens, Michael Shrubby, Skip Diger, Julian Dickey, Alex and Janie Mackey, Julie Hill, and 3 others, Susan and Sabrina, Angelo. Oh, wow, it's a bunch. Thank you guys for being here. Keep sharing. Let other people know about the program. Let them know about what we're doing. Okay, this one is going to be a bit light. This has to do with Governor Newsom telling an inconvenient truth, specifically to red states. But let's get to Magner first. Brother Magner, talk to me, my dear brother. Talk to me.
Hey, good afternoon. I wanted you to be prepared when somebody said something like Brian did this morning, where they're saying that no executive orders harmed women.
Right.
14151 was the executive order that was to stop DEI, and that harmed white women more than anything.
Right.
We've also,
I didn't have the number. Thank you for that number. I didn't have, what is it, 1451?
14151.
Yeah, I didn't have the number, but I did mention the DEI this morning.
Okay, I did miss that. I'm multitasking and driving usually at that time. There's also been cuts to WIC. There's less support for single mothers.
Right.
Those are all under executive orders. I don't have those numbers offhand. And then to go to another subject, there was a gentleman that had to approve the treatment for the president when he had COVID.
Mm-hmm.
It was an experimental procedure.
And he developed it, and they laid him off. Yep, I got that one.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you don't have the judgment to spare somebody's job that saved your life, what kind of person are you? I could go on, but I just wanted to bring those items up.
I think those are very important items that Patrick is talking about. The doctor that actually prescribed the particular remedy that pretty much saved Donald Trump's life. And as soon as Doge went in there, they got rid of his department and they got rid of him. Ironically speaking, Patrick, Kennedy doesn't know what the hell's going on at DHS. He has no clue. HHS. Well, he has no clue.
Yeah, we all know that he doesn't hold the same standards to his family that he wants to give to everybody else. We also know that he gets commissions from lawsuits over vaccines.
Right. Exactly.
So he has monetary incentive to mislead everybody, and then also too, what's interesting is that ACT, the fluoride, the company that produces fluoride,
right,
was a multi-million-dollar donor to Trump, and now I don't think that they produce the fluoride for municipal, but they do sell it at a very high price on a shelf. So people that still want to keep fluoride,
there you go,
if it's taken out of the water, is going to be paying ACT. So I found that
you nailed it. Too. You nailed it. Everything that they're doing right now is to actually incentivize the private sector to get into the things that the government used to do at a higher price, even with the ideas of losing a lot of tech support and customer service at Social Security, at IRS. As soon as people start complaining, what do you think they're going to do? They're not going to bring in fully paid customer service people that work for the government. They're going to bring in those agencies, those call centers. And that is a problem. That is what they're doing. They're gutting the government to be replaced by a lot of private sector operators. Anything else, Patrick?
No, sir. I'm in agreement 100% with you.
Thank you, my brother. You have a wonderful rest of your day. Let me tell you, folks, E2247 says, Egberto, what you're saying right now, I read that one, but he answered, Egberto, you publicizing judge treatment at the below federal level really is politics done right. Exactly. Thank you, my brother. All right. We also have in the house, somebody just came in that I missed, but that's okay. Patricia Nowlin, Jennifer Hunter, Judith Ann Pearson, Sandra King, Maggie, welcome aboard. All right. I want to play a piece here by Gavin Newsom put out by Midas Touch because it's a short clip. But I think it's an important clip, especially for those who continue to believe that conservative methodologies work. They don't. And the fact of the matter is that even in red states, the successful parts of those states, the effective monetary, fiscally responsible parts of those states are generally the blue sectors. I want you to listen to what Gavin Newsom had to say, and then we'll take it on the other side. Let me go ahead and get that onto the screen, and then we'll go ahead and play that. I think it's right here. Right here. There we go.
Governor, California just passed Japan as the fourth largest economy in the world, which of course sounds like a big deal. You posted about it. Why is this just an important thing for us to all, recognize, more broadly, geopolitically?
Well, it's a point of pride. I mean, it's a big blue state with $4.1 trillion a year economic output. We're 14% of the GDP in the United States of America, 50% more than the next big state. But I also want people to understand that this is a donor state. In 2023, Californians contributed $83.1 billion more than we received from the federal government. And by the way, for your viewers, they may be interested in this. That state, Texas, took $71.1 billion more than they provided the federal government. California, $83 billion, contributor, taker, Texas. And I say that to make a broader point. 71% of the economic output in the United States of America, blue counties, blue metros, blue states with lower deaths of despair rates, higher wages, more productivity, greater growth, lower death rates as it relates to murder. It is a mythology that somehow red states are dominating and blue states are struggling. It's factually untrue. And I think today, as it relates to the illumination from the International Monetary Fund that did the analysis that we highlighted, is just a proof point of states like California, big blue states all across this country that continue to be the tentpole of the U.S. economy.
And thank you, Midas Touch, for that. But it's not only that blue states are doing better and blue states are the economic engine of our country, but blue counties. We are in Texas, big red Texas, and Texas is a bigger state. It's not a donor state. It's a bigger state. But let me tell you what's worse about Texas being a bigger state. To show you how poorly it is run, I want you to listen to this very well. Texas, without giving its people the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act, they are beggars by over $70 billion. In other words, they take in $70 billion more than they put out. But it's worse, because if Texas were to give the billions of dollars that are paid for Medicare expansion to the Affordable Care Act and gave its citizens health care, there would be over $100 billion. Texas as a beggar state, even, check this out, even as Texas has large surpluses in the last few years in its budget. What that means, folks, is the following. Your Texas government is ripping you off. I repeat, your Texas government is ripping you off. Okay, AVQ says, blue states prioritizes the welfare of their people. This policy preferences results in higher wages, greater benefits, and larger economies, as well as more tax revenue for the federal government that is redistributed to the red states. But it's deeper than that. Good afternoon, Joe from California. Let me tell you why it's deeper. The people in blue states in the aggregate are healthier than the people in red states. They're more educated in the aggregate than people in red states. So it is a fallacy to believe that the conservative methodology works, because we have the numerical evidence that it does not. Whenever they get into power, they do exactly as Trump is doing. They crash the economy. They create policies that we all have to clean up later on. Patrick says, in retaliation of Trump's behaviors, Japan plans on shutting down U.S. assembly plants. We're shedding jobs under Republican leadership again. And AVQ says, again, to ensure healthcare and education, that's the prioritization of welfare of the people. That is very true. That is very true. And you did mention that in your first message. All right, before I move on with the last TikTok that I want to put out there. Today's TikTok Friday, by the way. I wish Bridge MCP was here, because Bridge MCP was one of the people that encouraged me to bring more TikTok stuff into our programming. So I wish you were here to say hello, but I'll give her a call a little bit later. Here's the deal. This has to do with, and I want to say this with the right tonality and the right narrative. Substack is a first of all, Politics Done Right, Egberto Off the Record, Willie's Media LLC. That's all what we do to promote the progressive message. And it's needed, right? So we put it on multiple platforms. We are on TikTok, Instagram, Telegram, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Medium, you name it, we're there. Substack everywhere. Now, the mainstream media, right? You know, we have all of them from MSNBC, CNN, etc., right? They're going through, in what we would call in Panama, they're going through páramo. You know, Donald Trump is trying to take over the mainstream media, and the mainstream media executives are capitulating to Donald Trump. We know CBS just did. We know that ABC did. MSNBC fired Joanne Reed. We know because, again, Joanne Reed was too hard on Trump, and he fired a whole lot of the people that were pretty hard on Donald Trump. Those are things that we know. Now, Substack has always had a lot of the independent journalists, you know, among other things, but independent journalists made refuge at Substack. And one of the reasons that they did that is the kind of freedom that the Substack platform gives a journalist, and it gives a journalist the opportunity to also monetize its craft so that they can continue doing their journalism. We are trying to build up our own cachet at Substack to do just that. But here's something that's interesting that just happened, right? As the mainstream media, and by the way, one of the things that characterizes Substack is the amount of independent voices, good writing, good journalism. Take a look. I don't know how many of you look at the daily newsletter that I put out. Those of you who are subscribed, get it in your mailboxes, but it is also on the Egberto Off the Record website at Substack, which is egberto.substack.com, right? You can actually reach, and the right, we invest a lot in research and writing these articles for all these videos that I make as well. So we give a different flavor. Even when we bring MSNBC clips in, we add a narrative to MSNBC's clips. We add a narrative that expand on it. Many times a narrative that they can't give at MSNBC or CNN because, again, it's a corporate media. It is corporate media. Now, as corporate media continues to cower, I mean, they're capitalist companies, they're corporate companies, so they have to support their shareholders. So many times they have to make their compromises, but we don't. Those of us in the independent media don't have to make these compromises, and that's why we can be honest, completely honest, with what we promote. Not to disparage any of the honesty from, let's say, a Joyanne Reid or a Ali Velshi or a Jim Acosta or any of them. These guys are very good journalists. But, again, they were journalists under the framework of corporate media. They also had notoriety, and they also have a lot of people who follow them. But here is the issue that I want to talk about to Substack, the people who are subscribers to Substack in general, and paid subscribers to different journalists in the aggregate. And this message is really for the Substack subscribers, meaning the people that are just members of Substack. When Jim Acosta got to Substack, and Jim Acosta reports, okay? He does good work. He reports very good work. But a lot of us independent folks do very important narratives that many of them couldn't do at these other stations, and then they come to Substack, and to some extent, what a lot of these good reporters have done is they have brought mainstream media to Substack. And that is great. That is fine. But there are many of us that were above and beyond mainstream media. We could give a unbiased narrative that was completely unbased from corporate. I mean, it was completely away from the corporate base. It takes a while before many of these mainstream media folks come into the fold and remember the freedoms that they have. Because I listen and I still hear some of the narrative that they would have, let's say, from the DNC, or the narrative that they would have from the way CNN or MSNBC, etc., do things. When Acosta got to Substack, he immediately got hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and that's expected. When he comes, because he comes from CNN, he's going to get a multitude of his audience that comes. That's expected. What I found intriguing was that out of that several 100,000, immediately he got, and it's way above this now, immediately he got over 10,000 paid subscribers. The way Substack works is you come into Substack, and anybody can subscribe to any journalist, anybody, that's fine. But you make your income, you can build things when people become paid subscribers. When you become a paid subscriber, you help that you say to that journalist, I like what you do. I like what's happening, and I want to make sure that you can continue doing what you do. Now, with all of the mainstream media folks coming over here and getting these hundreds of thousands of people and bringing some to Substack, I think that is wonderful. And as I was speaking to a friend of mine, another journalist on Substack, I said, that's an important thing because it brings more into the fold, and more people then get to listen to what I have to say or what Weems have to say or what Contessa has to say, a lot of independent journalists, they get a chance to hear these voices. But here's the kicker. America and subscribers are still, and the word, I want to use the word respectfully, too often, many are what I would say starstruck. So we have a Jim Acosta that comes over here and he immediately gets 10,000 paid subscribers. And that's great. But Jim Acosta is already a millionaire. Jim Acosta does good work. But so does the journeyman. So does Fernandez. So does Politics Done Right. In fact, we have been doing good work for a long time, expanding on a lot of the good work Joyanne Reed does, a lot of the good work Jim Acosta does. We have actually taken their clips and added value to those clips by putting a narrative on that couldn't be done on mainstream media to further expand it to not only our audience base, but way and far above through Medium and TikTok and Instagram and Telegram and all these other places, right? So my point here is the following, and this is not to Joyanne Reed or to Jim Acosta and all the great mainstream media folks that are migrating to Substack. This goes to our audience. I want you guys to remember all these guys that are leaving mainstream media, good people. Most of them left with golden parachutes, millions of dollars to leave because mainstream media bought these guys out because we are now a fascist country where the mainstream media cannot say as it will. And they got a place to be here on Substack. If you have a limited budget where you are supporting, thank you, Yuju Sam. This is why I subscribe to the Journeyman Substack. Much respect, Egberto and Marlon. Uju subscribe to both of us. Thank you so kindly, my brother. When these guys were millionaires with the golden parachutes that they left with from the mainstream media. They were paid to leave because the mainstream media, they figure they'll make more money by paying them off and doing otherwise, right? But those of us that's been doing a lot of the work to promote not only progressivism, but to enlighten Americans as to what's happening in our economy and elsewhere, many people will quickly support, let's say, Joyanne Reed, a Jim Acosta, a Steve Schmidt, and all these other good folks, but would somehow be resistance to those of us who are out there in the field doing the work. As an example, we are putting on here in Kingwood big events to actually do something to move to ensure that this reconciliation bill doesn't get passed with all the evil features it has. We are not only journalists in this regards, but we are activist journals playing a part in making things that we research better. A lot of our stars don't do that, don't have to do that. They just have to come out, talk, report. You see what we do. You see us bring in folks. You see us in the field. Okay? You see that. So what my talk to our audience, to the base of Substack, is not only about Politics Done Right or Egberto Off the Record. That's my name on Substack, but it's about all the good journalists on Substack that aren't from mainstream media. This place is big enough for everybody. big enough for everybody. And it's good to have those people that were forced out of mainstream media to come on to Substack. That's a good thing. What is not a good thing is when we reach a level when their presence turned into a capitalist endeavor of, again, migrating all of the spoils to the few. Because what happens, as Joanne pointed out, is we get a gentrification of Substack. We get a gentrification of that which was supposed to be independent news, independent journalism. Because what we do is we just turn Substack into MSNBC. We turn Substack into CNN. We turn Substack into something that was already there. And then it weans out those who don't have the power to stay in power to continue doing the work. So this message is really for our Substack subscribers. Not to Substack, not to Joanne Reed, not to Steve Schmidt, not to Midas Touch, not to all the big guys that got a stipend for coming onto the platform. It's not for them. That's fine. But it is for those of you who are the ones that control the platform. And that's the millions of you that are actual subscribers to the platform. Those millions that subscribe to the platform, please ensure that your dollars support the small journalists. Those other guys are wealthy. They have staff. Barry Wise has a staff. A lot of people work for her. Big time on Substack. And that's a good thing. But the independent journalists, the ones that are going out there and doing the work, deserve and actually maintain the flavor of what we are supposed to be. And I tell you what, you take a look and watch all the reporting out there, and you'll see a lot of the stars use a lot of our material. Not that we've ever asked to be named when our material is used. That's not of interest because we share material. That's what news is all about. But that's a message that I sure needed us to understand. So please, if you are a member of Substack, when you are actually doing your subscriptions, remember that the stars are not already they got $1 million contracts to leave the mainstream media, and many of them as well got stipends to join Substack. As well, many of them immediately got those who were, and I say this with respect, starstruck, and say, I'm going to be a part of that. So my brothers and sisters, please remember to become paid subscribers of Egberto Off the Record, The Journeyman, Fernandez, and a lot of other folks, and support and ensure that we can continue to do what we're doing here. Uju M says, always the independent journalists on here were reporting the real news from the fascist regime before MSM even bothered to whisper about. I knew about El Salvador concentration camps from Stack's Arturo Dominguez, my friend, a friend of mine right here in Houston. And Judge Legum talked about, we do the work. We do the work. Let's see what else we've got here from Substack. But anyway, Substack, I urge you, do become paid subscribers. I have one more TikTok that I found very, very interesting that I want to play for you right now. And let me get to it. I am about to pull it up right now. And then let me get it on the screen. And then we'll go ahead and play that. This is another real good one. This one has to do with the Confederacy.
My first ancestor coming to North Carolina in the late 1600s into what would become Bertie County. I say that with an immense amount of pride. But to admit that I'm a 12th generation anything in this country means that I'm most likely the direct descendant of enslavers. In my case, I am. I'm the direct descendant of enslavers. And that's not an easy thing to say. But I grew up in a time where, you know, that flag and that history was revered. And when I look back, I think it was the conflation of that flag with Southern identity. And it came to mean all of these other things. I grew up going to Leonard Skinner shows when they hit, Sweet Home Alabama, and a 100-foot by 50-foot Confederate flag dropped at the back of the stage, and everybody went nuts, and my daddy was one of them. And then I grew up, and I read books, and I think about someone like Alexander Stephens, and I'm assuming we all know who Alexander Stephens is, but if we don't, he was the vice president of the Confederacy. And when he was defining what that institution was, he said, its foundation rests, its cornerstone is laid upon the great truth that the Negro is not equal to the white man, that slavery and subordination to the superior race is his natural and born condition. That's what the man said. That's what he said it defined. So I don't care about any kind of revisionist history that wishes to place it as something else, because it's not that. And I think about the black communities in Jackson County. I think about people who have descendants here who go back hundreds of years. And what every one of you who voted for that is saying is that you revere a moment in time when their ancestors were in bondage. That's what that means. My first ancestor coming in.
All right. I hope you guys got that. When I saw that and just heard him talking, that really touched my heart. Because when somebody like him, a son of the Confederacy, comes out and says that, it means a whole lot. But anyway, folks, we are at 3:56. I probably can take one call before I go ahead and do my ask. I can probably take one call. The number is, of course, para ver, 281-823-7747. Again, that number is 281-823-7747. Would love to hear from one person who has a thought as to what we talked about today. One quick thought. Anybody, give me a call, 281-823-7747. And as I wait for maybe receiving a call, let me go ahead and prepare the ask that I always do at the end of the show, and that is to tell you, you can support Politics Done Right by becoming a paid subscriber of our newsletter by going to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Again, that number that is politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Of course, you can support us on Patreon as well by going to Patreon. All right, it seems like we have Mr. Brackens, my dear brother Ray. Good morning, good afternoon, Ray. How are you doing, my dear brother?
I'm good, and I actually really appreciated hearing that young white brother talk about,
Yes.
He is the descendant of slavers, and he's not proud of that. And that's all we as the black communities who are descendants of slaves, although I don't officially associate myself with ADOS, but I basically say if you are a black American, you probably are the descendant of a slave. And if you're a white American, you most likely, if you're not an immigrant, you are the descendant of a slaver. And we just need these people to understand we don't hold no ill will to you. We just want to move the country forward where that never happens again.
I love that the way you said that, Ray, and let me tell you why. I think that's all people want. People want to have people say, we recognize that what was done by our ancestors was absolutely wrong. It's not our fault. Our ancestors do it, and we are atoning for all the negative that has permeated throughout history for that atrocity. That's all. And again, you know what's interesting about people who fear that, right? South Africa is the perfect example. South Africa created a constitution much better than our constitution. And within South Africa proper, it's amazing the harmony. I mean, there are problems with landowners not wanting to give up land that they're not using, etc. Land that was initially stolen in the first place. But here's the thing. The harmony that is occurring in South Africa right now because of the honesty of the Truth Commission and other things there is astounding. Nobody needs to fear when honesty shows up. But Ray, I gotta get out of here. Anything else you want to say real quick?
No, you pretty much said it all. I just feel like be better. If you know better, do better.
There you go. Magical words. Thank you, my brother. You have a wonderful rest of your day. All right, folks. Thank you, Ray, as usual, for calling in. And so again, folks, please support us on Substack if you have the wherewithal to do so. The subscription is inexpensive, and we do the work. And please, I don't know how many of you are here that heard the little spot talk I get about the current stars that we have coming on to Substack. Please remember those of us that really worked hard to make this that independent resource. Again, you can become paid subscribers of our Substack by going to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. I got to get out of here. I love you too, Joanne. Thank you for being here. I got to get out of here. I love you all. Respect you all of you, all ideologies. My name is Egberto. By the way, if you want to email me directly with a message or whatever, you can go to info@politicsdoneright.com. info@politicsdoneright.com. I'll get that email directly from you guys. Additionally, you can visit our Substack at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter and go there to become a paid subscriber. Support what we do. It is important to sustain all of this work. Thank you so kindly. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this, baby. I am what? Out. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.